If a player is put on the restricted list for any reason, but then later it's found out that he didn't really need to be placed there. For instance, there was a false accusation. In parentheses, this person said, I'm by no means saying Wander Franco has been falsely accused. But this question came about because of Wander Franco. Would the player get their lost money back? Thank you for asking this question. There has been a lot of confusion, and I want to clarify it. There are conflicting reports out there. Is Wander Franco being paid right now? Wander Franco is on the restricted list, not the administrative list. On the restricted list, players do not get paid. Is there an exception that's been made and a side deal that's been made by the union and Major League Baseball regarding Wander Franco? We don't know. No one knows. Some people think he is getting paid. Some people within baseball tell me he's not getting paid. I am not an investigative journalist. I am not here to report news. I'm here to comment on it. I'm not here to make news. I'm here to give you my perspective on existing news. The fact is, my experience tells me that not only is Wander Franco not being paid, but also he's not getting service time. But to answer your question directly, if he is taken off the restricted list, he then starts getting paid. But there can be a negotiation that once off the restricted list, the player would then be paid for the time on the restricted list because anything could be negotiated with the labor union. Generally, players on the restricted list do not receive back pay once they're off the restricted list. So, an example, the restricted list for paternity leave. These lists that we talked about yesterday and Coke and I talked about after the show, Wander Franco did not go to San Francisco with the team, but the team has to do something with him. Either putting him on the injured list, not going to do that. Concussion protocol, not going to do that. Restricted list, that's done with baseball. That's a possibility. The administrative leave list, that's a possibility. The separate paternity list, that's a possibility. But he's got to be put somewhere. You don't just not play. So Major League Baseball worked with the union, told the Rays that they were going to put him on this restricted list, but they've got to do the investigation because there are so many sides to the Wander Franco story. Is the girl 14 or 19? Was there a relationship between Wander Franco and the girl? If she's underage, consent can't be given, so that's a crime. What are the local authorities doing in the Dominican? Does baseball need to wait for the Dominican authorities to do their investigation, or can they complete their own investigation, interview their own witnesses without subpoena power, and then punish Franco the way that they punished Bauer when there were no criminal charges brought against Bauer? How do you get the union to agree to the punishment? Do the Rays want to terminate the contract that they've signed with Wander Franco, 11 years, $182 million? Do they want to terminate it for cause? Or do they want to just release him? From the Rays' standpoint, they want it to be a totally different Wander Franco who did it, or they want proof that this girl is over 18. They don't want this issue. Believe me, no one wants to be involved with any situation with a minor. Worse than domestic violence is how front offices view a sexual relationship with a minor. We don't get into the compare game. We don't get into what is the best of the worst or the worst of the best, but in front offices, you do have the discussion. I've had many discussions where I'm ranking behavior. This may sound absurd to you, but the reason why we have discussions ranking behavior is that we are hoping to have consistency with punishment and rule enforcement. A player misses a spring training workout to film a commercial versus missing a regular season game to have a baby. Everything in between. A player has a DUI versus a DUI that involves crashing the car and someone gets hurt versus someone gets killed versus being a drug addict versus being a sex addict versus missing the cutoff man versus not knowing the signs versus being tardy and missing the team plane. We would talk about all of the things from the worst of the worst, the easy one, charged with the crime and found guilty of murder, to car got stuck in traffic on the way to the ballpark. The reason why you have to go through all these scenarios is you have to plan in advance. You have to have the tools ready to deal with any issue that confronts you during the course of a day. And when you run a business or a sports team, you have people in your business. Issues happen every single day. Not all of them are pleasant, and the discussions are always confidential because planning these things is difficult, but required. It's sort of like studying for something, like a test. It's really hard, or training for a race. It's hard to do, but if you're going to be prepared, then you have to do it. This Wander Franco situation, as we told you yesterday, is developing. You will hear drips and drabs because the union has incentive, Wander Franco has incentive, the Rays have incentive, and Major League Baseball. They each have incentive to get information out there. And they each have incentive to get their own agendas out there. Baseball, we don't want distractions and we will not permit players to act this way. The union, we will not allow for players to be punished without due process. The Rays, we've got a chance to win this season. We want to get rid of the distraction somehow, somewhere. Wander Franco, I don't want to lose $182 million. Everyone's got their own side. Everyone's got their own plan. Everyone's got their own PR plan, their own agenda. We will continue to follow this story because it's not done yet.